Okay, students, now we are in question number 50. Okay, so this is very simple. Company had issued 1 lakh number of shares, but they received application on 1 lakh 50,000 number of shares. Okay, so no extra shares are rejected here. Okay, so the entire number of shares were given pro rata allotment. Okay, so we are having the excess of 50,000 number of shares here. Okay, so this 50,000 into 2, it will be 1 lakh. Okay, so this extra number of shares, okay, the application money received on this 50,000 number of shares are actually adjusted towards allotment money. Okay, so you can see here, when we receive the money on application for 1 lakh 50,000 number of shares, it is this entry, bank account debit to share application. Okay, it will be 1 lakh 50,000 into 2, 3 lakh. Okay, now this application money should be transferred to equity share capital account, and extra number of shares, extra application money to be transferred to or adjusted to allotment. Okay, so 1 lakh shares will be transferred, allotted, because 1 lakh number of shares were issued by the company. Okay, and 50,000, that is the extra number of extra amount of money that was received on 50,000 number of shares will be adjusted towards allotment money. Okay, so allotment, it involves premium of rupees 3 per share. Okay, so share allotment account debit, okay, it should be 1 lakh into 5, okay, involving both allotment and premium money. Okay, so share allotment account debit to equity share capital account to SPR. Okay, it will be 5 lakh, 2 lakh and 3 lakh. Now this 1 lakh is to be adjusted with this 5 lakh. Okay, so 5 minus 1, it will be how much? 4 lakh. That's why we are writing 4 lakh here. Okay, now on time of allotment, we have calls in arrear. Okay, and whenever you see calls in arrear, you have to make the adjustment. Okay, you have to find the number of shares applied or allotted. Okay, now go to the formula here. I think I have not made that thing. Anyway, okay. So in question number 50, you can see here, uh, Sudhir, okay, who had applied for 300 number of shares, failed to pay the allotment and call money. Okay, so it is actually 200 number of shares that is allotted to him. Okay, so we have to write the formula. Number of shares uh, allotted equals to, we know the formula. Okay, so let me just type the formula out here. Okay, total total number of shares allotted by total number of shares applied, okay, by number of shares applied. Okay, so how many number of shares were actually allotted? 1 lakh. Okay, so it was 1 lakh. And how many number of shares were applied? 1 lakh 50,000. Okay, and how many number of shares were actually applied by this person? uh, 300 number of shares were applied. Okay, so let me make it quite bigger. Okay, okay, I think this will work, and this also. Okay, now when we do the calculation, it will be, let me take you to calculator. Okay, you can use a calculator also. Okay, so it is this, uh, 1 lakh into 300. Okay, it will be this amount divided by 1 lakh 50,000. How much it will be? 200. So 200 number of shares are actually allotted to him. Okay, so this is how we come to know that 200 number of shares are actually uh, allotted. Okay, so number of shares, 200 number of shares are allotted. So he had applied for 300 number of shares, out of which 200 number of shares are actually applied. Sorry, 300 number of shares were applied by him, out of which 200 number of shares are allotted. Okay, so there is calls in area on 200 number of shares. So till now we have passed these entries. Okay, so this entry, and this particular entry. Okay, so this is also the entry, okay, which we are in. Okay, we are just worried about the amount of calls in area. Okay, so we can see here that this 1 lakh was already adjusted with this allotment money. So 5 lakh minus 1 lakh will be how much? 4 lakh, right? So let us go to this calculator. Now 4 lakh, okay, 4 lakh is the amount. So now how many number of shares were actually allotted? 1 lakh. So per share it should be received rupees 4. Okay. So how many number of shares were actually allotted to him? Just now we calculated 200 number of shares. So it will be how much? 800. So this 800 is your calls in area. You can say this. Okay, this 800 is your calls in area. Okay, you can have a look at this working note also. Okay, so 5 lakh was amount receivable. Okay, and 1 lakh was adjusted. Okay, and which this 4 lakh will be now receivable. Okay, and this person who was allotted 200 number of shares. Okay, and the allotment money due from him was 1 lakh. Okay, but he had applied for 300 number of shares, but only 200 shares are allotted. So extra 100 number of shares are still there. Okay, so 100 into 2, that is excess application money. 100, excuse me, 100 into 2 will be 200, right? So 800 is your calls in area. Okay, so this is the amount of money that is received on time of allotment. Okay, so you can see here 399,200. Okay, this is the entry. Now we will make the entry for a share first and final call. Okay, so it will be 6 lakh. Okay, now 200 number of shares are allotted. Okay, so we know it very simple. Okay, 1200 will be the calls in area. Okay, will be the calls in area on time of receipt of share first and final call money. Okay, now there will be the entry for forfeiture of these 200 number of shares. Okay, so 200 into 10, because this 10 is the full face value of the share. Okay, and on time of allotment they did not receive, I mean company, they did not receive premium money also. Okay, so premium money should be on the debit side. So 200 into 3. Okay, allotted number of shares 200, and rupees 3 per share is your SPR. Okay, so this is it, and calls in area will be the sum total of this thing, 800 plus 1200. Okay, 2000. Okay, and this 600 will be your share forfeiture amount. Okay, so after which, okay, this out of 200 number of shares, 170 shares will be now reissued to the public at rupees 9. Okay, which is below the full face value, which means share forfeiture account will appear in the debit side. Okay, so this forfeiture will be 170 into 10 minus 9, 1. So 170 into 1 will be 170. Okay, so 170 into 9, it will be 1530. Okay, and 170 into 10 will be 1700. Okay, now this 600 is the amount which is actually representing for 200 number of shares. So we reissued 170 number of shares. Okay, so we have to find what is the actual amount of forfeiture on 170 number of shares. So it is 510. So 510 minus 170, it is 340. Okay, and in the balance we have rupees 90. Okay, so this 340 is the profit on reissue of forfeited shares. So the entry will be share forfeiture account debit to capital reserve account, and the amount is 340 here. Okay, so this way you will solve this question of pro rata allotment. Okay,